Hi everyone, this is my review / walkthrough of my 1998 Peugeot 106 Rallye S2. So, going to let the car warm up a bit and go on to my favourite roads. But before I get into the specs of the car, what the car's all about, what it's like to drive, I thought I'd just give an overview of what the Rallye designation means for a Peugeot car. So I think the first model that was designated with the Rallye name was the 205 Rallye, which was only available on the continent, so probably just France. This was like an extreme 205 with a 1.3 litre engine on twin Weber carbs, very quick, and would give something like a 205 GTI 1.6 a scare. And its emphasis was lightweight, not more power. Fast forward a bit, and the reason why this is called an S2 is because there was a 106 Rallye S1, for those that don't know. It's a bit bumpy. The 106 Rallye S1 was a homologation special, so Peugeot could rally the 1.3, I think, and that car had a screaming 1.3 high revving engine, whereas this one's a bit more torquey, and has a different engine code, obviously. The 106 Rallye S1 was produced in quite limited numbers, about 1,000 of them came to the UK, and then because it's so successful, Peugeot decided to make the S2, which is what I'm driving now. Should really wait for it to warm up a bit first. So as this came in about 1997, 1998, 500 of these 106 Rallye S2s came to UK. The only colour options were indigo blue, which is what I'm driving now, or Bianca white. Both look very good. What's he doing? So this car's not all about its specs, but I suppose I'll give you them. So it's a 1.6 naturally aspirated TU engine. I can't remember the exact code for Peugeot. It produces about 103 brake horsepower and about 97 foot-pounds of torque, I think. I might be wrong on that, I'll have to check. 0 to 60 is quoted something around 9 seconds or something ridiculous, but Peugeot are quite well known for, to get into a lower insurance category, they put the car with half load, so 2 passengers and a full tank and maybe some luggage. So I'd say the car is definitely under 8 seconds to 60, but again, that's not the important part about this car. So how does this differ, say, from 106 GTI? Well, again, the emphasis is on lightweightness, so it doesn't have much plastic, not much trim. It's quite back to basics. So that means it does without ABS, central locking, anything as fancy as that. So it means you get a really raw car, which is what it's all about. It's very hard to drive this car and talk at the same time because it tempts you to do this. Not sure if you can hear that, but that was 7,000. What this car does and doesn't have, it's got disc brakes all around, vented at the front, no electric windows, so no comforts basically, and I think estimated weight's under 900 kilograms. So like all good hot hatches or hot Peugeots even, this thing is really about how it corners. So there are a limited amount of options you could get on this car from new. One of them being power steering, which my car has, so it's pretty rare to have one, and I'm not sure how I feel about it really, because I have driven other Peugeot cars of this era without power steering, and the feedback's really good. I haven't driven an S2 Rallye without power steering, so I can't compare really. It is quite useful if the back end steps out and you need to quickly correct it, which can happen in these cars quite often, if you're driving spiritedly, of course. But I'd have to see. I wouldn't have any plans to remove it because it's just quite a faff and not really worth it, all the hassle in my opinion. Another extra it came with, which was quite weird, is it had the 106 GTI, I think they're called Raptor wheels as new, and the only other option was an airbag. So back in 1998 you had the option of a single airbag on the driver's wheel. This brings me on to the mods I've done to the car, which are very few because in my opinion these cars are best kept as standard as possible. Lots of them have had 16 valve engines dropped in from the Saxo VTS and a 106 GTI, and I suppose they make a really good track car, but if you're keeping it original, I think 8 valves is the best way to go. So in terms of modifications, it has, as you've probably heard, we'll give you a blast now. Exhaust or Peugeot Sport Group N system, so that's pretty loud and nice. I think it's a 2-inch back box. I think the back box is actually by Scorpion, but the Pug Sport bit is the centre pipe and downpipe, and it makes the car so enjoyable. It's half the reason I bought this car. It just sounds incredible. You can get it to pop and bang on overrun, and it's just incredible. And then the only other modification I've done is, it's not really performance enhancing, it's visual. I took out that ugly airbag steering wheel and the airbag unit and put a steering wheel from the S1 Rallye, which has the logo embedded or embossed into the middle cap, and it just suits the car really well. Another thing I like about these cars is the subtle styling cues compared to, say, the 106 GTI. I've mentioned what the Rallye does without, but it also has, oh, that's the seat not clicking into place. It also has slight styling differences inside and outside. So it has the 106 Sport body kit, obviously, so side skirts and front and rear bumpers, which obviously look nice, but they're the same as the GTIs. But on the outside, all of the trims around the car, so they'd be black on a GTI, are the body colour, same as the car, so I think that's a really nice touch. On the inside, I'll show you on the video, you get a really nice Rallye badge on the dashboard on the passenger side, just above the glove box. And probably the most dramatic thing people notice is, this is for both the Bianca car and the Indigo Blue car, is you get a blue carpet, which is quite different. On the 106 Rallye BS1 version, the 1.3, I think those came with a red carpet and red seat belts, so don't get red seat belts, but you also get these seats which are really nice, and they have like the Peugeot colour scheme, the Rallye colour scheme going on again, so the red, yellow and blue. This is also on the door cards, and you can see the exposed metal there. It's pretty Spartan. And what else does the car have? I think the gear stick's specific to this car. Mine's a bit worn, but it's angled towards the driver and has blue, or it did have blue paint etched into it, which is really cool. So I've rambled on about the features of this car and its origins, but have to get down to the driving now. This is one of those cars where if you grab it by the scruff of its neck, it's at its most comfortable. You feel everything through the steering. It's straight and true, right up to your fingertips. The engine, nothing really much happens up to about 3,500–4,000 where the cam comes in, and it screams to redline. You can't help but drive it all the way to 7,000 and a bit beyond. This car in particular has it's no way near perfect. Has a few stone chips on the front of the bonnet, and the arches are a bit fading, but it's 76,000 miles, which is quite low for one of these. They go well past 100, and mechanically it's spot on. In terms of ownership, the only big bill I've had to spend on the car was having the head gasket replaced, as it's quite a standard item to go at around 70,000 miles on one of these. Other than that, it just goes through consumables like any other car. So tyres are very cheap for these things, even performance tyres. This is Yokohama S-drives on all four corners, and I've driven them wet and dry, and I really like them. They're sort of not as expensive as a Michelin or I think a Toyo Proxy. By standard, I think it's 175 by 55 on a 14-inch rim, whereas most people in the rally community tend to go for 185 50 section tyres, again on 14. So this is what that's what the Yokohamas are. Things like brake discs are not expensive, pads aren't expensive, and it doesn't chew through them because it's a light car. That's the best thing. Oh, here we go again. People have different opinions on what makes a good hot hatch, and for me, I'm not saying this is the perfect hot hatch, but it comes pretty close, and I think it's because it's got all the right variables in what you want from a hot hatch. It's lightweight, it's raw, it has a great engine, handles supremely because of its lightweight combination, and it's a bit special. I think people forget about that. You can't compare it to the modern hot hatches because they've just shot off in terms of development, and they're mighty machines, and you just can't compare something like this to a Golf R. Another hot topic on this car is value. To be honest, I don't really care about its value. It's nice to watch it go up, but I like to drive the car, so it's sort of a win-win. The car goes up in value a bit, but I also get to drive it, and it is well kept because I just want to keep it nice. It's not because I'm looking at it as an investment. But in terms of actual numbers, I bought this about 3 years ago when the prices were just starting to move a bit. They kind of bottomed out at about £2,000 for something with 70 odd thousand miles, say, and I picked it up a bit after that, and I think I paid £3,000, which I thought was perfect because other than the car being in really good condition and being well cared for, it has such an extensive service history. I've got a full folder of all the invoices it's had, all the preventative maintenance it's had done on it, and things like the original sales invoice, and it just kind of eases your mind a bit. Whereas skip forward 3 years now, the prices of these have started to shoot up, and I think this is partly due to 205 GTI enthusiasts who can't, perhaps have been priced out of that range now because they've gone ridiculously high now. I saw an absolutely mint one go for sale for about £30,000 at auction. So more people are starting to take interest in these now because they're a bit more obtainable. Like I said, I pay attention to the market because it's interesting. There's one for sale now about £9,000, and it's done about 20,000 miles less than mine. Exterior is much better condition than mine, but I still think 9,000 is pretty high. But it gives the car more coverage, I suppose, and more people start to understand what these cars are, what they're about, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And but I can just continue to drive it as I want. So this is a second-hand car, it's not a new car review, but I think it's important to understand, or put it into perspective, driving this car in the modern car world. So not comparing it like for like against rivals, but just showing what something that's nearly 20 years old can give you in 2016. This car. So what I think you find in this car that's lacking in a lot of new modern, say all of these super hatches or hot hatches even, is just the character this car has. It was built in limited numbers, which I think helps, say compared to something like a 205 GTI, but it just has all these subtle tweaks, like I've discussed the interior, the outside trim being body coloured, and I think that's lacking in cars. Okay, let's get back to driving this car. Okay, second gear. It's just so direct. I'm quite familiar with this platform of car in more than one engine size. I used to own a 1.1 Saxo, which is obviously Saxo is based on the 106 platform. It's the same underpinnings, and even though that car didn't have much power, it had a great chassis as a base to go off really, and this is even better. A bit fatter tyres, but still very playful. It grips well, but it still lets you have some sort of adjustability, especially off the throttle. So braking, I think it's good. That's one thing people can always tell an old car is its braking feels out of date. It might be because I don't really daily drive a car or anything, and I'm not used to modern brakes. It's got discs all around, as I say, so it's pretty good. Feels good as well. You can always do better, but for the road I think it's adequate. It doesn't matter where you are as well, like if you're in a tunnel or even just on an open countryside road like this, you just want to wind it out to the red line every time. But then again, as I say now, I've dropped it to fourth, third even. It's pretty docile. This exhaust can be quite boomy if you're in the wrong gear, in the wrong revs, so it makes it quite hard. It's not good for motorways, this car with this exhaust at all. If you're in, say, doing about anywhere between 60 and 70 in fifth gear, it just booms. It's horrible because it's got or resonators, that's the word. So it sorts of forces you to either drive at 55 miles per hour or more like 80, but obviously you have to obey the speed limits, so I obviously choose 55 every time. I'd say for people that aren't used to these sort of cars, in this older, the clutch is quite heavy. I think it's fine, and I suppose the only thing I've forgotten to mention is the gearbox. So it's got quite a short throw. There's no short shift kit or anything. I like it as it is. Slots home pretty well. It's not the slickest, but it's definitely forceful. And it's a joy of the car, really.